So something came into mind a few days ago, and that was the topic on the protagonists of the Elder Scrolls series. What happened to them all? A lot of us have played one of the games in the series, yet a vast majority of us probably don't know what happens to the characters we play as when the main storyline is actually over. So I went ahead and did my research in these 5 characters from the Elder Scrolls Arena to the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and I found some very interesting stuff in the whereabouts of these 5 after they complete their adventures. So if you didn't know what happens to these heroes after their quest on Tamriel is complete, then you are in for a knowledgeable treat today, and warning, there will be spoilers. So sit back and enjoy this historical trip backwards in time as we begin with one of the more unknown heroes, and that is the Eternal Champion from the Elder Scrolls Arena. In this game you were set out to collect the 8 pieces of the Staff of Chaos to put it together and kill Jagger Tarn, who has betrayed and imprisoned the Emperor in an unknown dimension and taken over his throne disguised as the Emperor, with all his demonic minions also disguised as Emperor guardsmen. You have the help of Tarn's deceased apprentice Rhea, who helps you escape the prison he put you in for you to set out on your journey and find the pieces. After 10 years you have collected all the pieces around Tamriel except for one in the Imperial Palace guarded by Tarn himself. You go there, battle Tarn, retrieve the last piece of the staff, touch the staff, and boom, Jagger melts and a portal opens, allowing the Emperor to return home. Thus he named you the Eternal Champion. There's more detail to this and I might have worded it very wrong, but hopefully you get the gist of it. Now this is great and all, but what happens to our so-called Eternal Champion? Well, there isn't too much to go on for this character, but the Emperor does throw in at the end that you will rule by his side, meaning that you might have been given some form of power over the Empire. There is also some fan theories that the champion just returned home to the province they hail from, but that's just speculation. I think the champion more than likely accepted his or hers given power from the Emperor and lived out their days until old age and died from natural causes. I can't really think of any other good reason, as it isn't talked about in any of the other games, but there is a theory that maybe this hero, the Eternal Champion, is also the character you play as in Daggerfall, but again, that's just a theory. Next we have Daggerfall, the second game in the series. You're tasked as the Emperor's personal agent to go to Lyak Bay in High Rock and investigate the late King Lysandis' murder. You are also told to try and retrieve a letter that the Emperor had sent to an agent in Daggerfall. This letter basically reveals that Nulfaga, Lysandis' mother, knows the location of the Mantella, which is a powerful key to bringing life to the Numidium, a giant colossal humanoid machine built by the Dwemer. It is discovered, however, an orc named Gortwarg finds the letter and brings it to the King of Worms, Manamarco, for consultance. The Underking, who once defeated the Numidium, is still recovering from the battle on the ground. Nobody can hold the Mantella, however, until you avenge King Lysandis by killing his murderer, and when done, power will be restored to the Underking to help you fight him off. And this is where Daggerfall becomes confusing for most people. I can't lie, the first time I read about this, it screwed me over a bit too. Daggerfall has a couple of endings, but they are brought together to form an event that is known as the Warp in the West, where there is something kind of like a time split, and basically you have all these events simultaneously happening at the same time, and all possible outcomes are happening, but oh my god, it's so confusing. So what happens to the hero of Daggerfall? Well, it's highly speculated, thanks to a paragraph in the Warp in the West book in the latest Elder Scrolls games, that in all this confusion they were killed. If not, then they just vanished, because after the events of the Warp in the West, he is recorded in northern parts of history. It's just assumed though that he died in the Warp in the West. Morrowind has you playing as a prisoner being transported to Vordenfell by ship, where you will end up taking on the evil deity Dagot-Ur and his followers, who are mostly all settled below Red Mountain and are encompassed to a group called the Sixth House. It is prophesied that the Nora Vereen is to oppose and defeat this evil being. You are Nora Vereen. You spend the game working alongside the Blades until, through the help of Vivek, you discover who you really are and what you are meant to do all along. Using some artifacts known as the Raid Guard, Keening and Sundar, and using Vivek's help, you enter Dagot's realm and defeat him, ending the blight across the lands and becoming the hero. So what happens to Nora Vereen? Well, this has been a long time debate amongst players, but it is said that he or she had travelled to the distant lands of Akavir after the events of Morrowind. Due to the Nora Vereen being altered by the heart of Lorcan, they do not age, and therefore that can easily lead to the theory that they are still alive, even though there is a few centuries of a gap between that and Skyrim, which is the latest story in the timeline. Although they do not age, they can still be killed by everything else like a normal person. So with that said, if the Nora Vereen was careful and was not killed by a sword in the 200 years of a gap, then they are probably still alive. So on to Oblivion, we have the hero of Kvatch, who watches the assassination of Uriel Septim from a mysterious cult known as the Mythic Dawn, led by Mancor Cameron. You watch the Oblivion crisis unveil and help save the city of Kvatch from it, and discover the secret son of the Emperor, Martin Septim. From then on, you make your way around Cyrodiil, helping discover a way to destroy the Daedric Gates once and for all and stop Mehrunes Dagon. You have to help get Martin Septim to light the Dragonfires with the Amulet of Kings, and this goes on to happen as the Imperial City is being sieged by Mehrunes Dagon. Martin sacrifices himself to take on the form of of Akatosh and he succeeds in stopping Mehrunes Dagon's invasion of the city. This brings us to the question, what happens to the hero of Kvatch afterwards? Well, his or her adventures don't stop here. The Shivering Isles takes place afterwards, and I'm not going to go into Sheogorath's cycle or anything, but once you defeat the Jiggalag, you become the new Sheogorath. Want more proof? Sheogorath says this in Skyrim. So the latest game we have in the series is Skyrim. I'm not going to bother going into this because, to be honest, the Dragonborn is still alive after the events of Skyrim and there isn't any further progress on the Elder Scrolls timeline to prove otherwise. So hopefully you understand. So guys, hope you enjoyed this, and don't forget to leave a like if you did and subscribe for more Elder Scrolls related content. Hopefully you learned a thing or two, and as always, I shall see you next time.